is Encore.
Cool.
The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
La la la. I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Kylie Minogue's Can't Get You Out of My Head.
You know, you dance as soon as you can stand. Most kids are like this. I think dancing's just a natural form of expression and having a good time.
Those are the immortal words of Kylie Minogue, the princess of pop. There aren't many pop artists who are at the top of their game 40 years into their career. Let's be real here. Pop music is often considered a young person's game, one that generally favours younger artists. As we've witnessed here on Encore with Justin Bieber, Destiny's Child, Britney Spears, Usher, and others. Careers can start in an artist's preteen years, but they often slow down as the decades go by. But there are always anomalies, and that's where Kylie Minogue comes in. Making her first musical appearance back in 1985 at the age of 17, Kylie Minogue, or simply Kylie, sans last name, has officially been in the music industry for 40 years now. Of course, that's not any kind of record. Tony Bennett had an 85-year career. But when it comes to consistently maintaining relevance in pop music, Kylie might be in a league of her own. Sure, you could argue that her contemporaries like Madonna, Janet Jackson, and Mariah Carey have all maintained their status in pop music, but here's the thing about Kylie. She had one of the biggest hits of her career in 2023 at the age of 55. Yes, Pardam was one of the biggest songs that year and proved to be inescapable throughout that summer. Not only did Kylie win the inaugural Grammy Award for Best Dance Pop Recording for Padam, she was also recognized as one of the most influential people of 2024 by Time magazine. To quote Coldplay's Chris Martin, who wrote the blurb for Kylie, she always seems to be 10 years ahead of everyone else. And she's an artist who knows how to be of service, making songs that fans go on to love for years. After all this time, Kylie's star has never dimmed. Born and raised in Melbourne, Australia, Kylie Ann Minogue got her start at the age of 10. She didn't mean to, but while accompanying her younger sister Danny to an audition for a TV show, Kylie was the one to catch the producer's eye. Kylie was given a small recurring role on a soap called The Sullivans that was set during World War II. Kylie appeared in 8 episodes of the show before her sister Danny took over the role. A few years later, Kylie would join the cast of The Henderson Kids, a teen drama that also starred future Emmy Award-winning actor Ben Mendelsohn, who you may know from films such as The Dark Knight Rises and Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Kylie played Char, a tough girl from the wrong side of the tracks, for just one season of the show before moving on. After sending a demo of her music to variety show Young Talent Time, Kylie appeared alongside her younger sister Danny, who was already a dancer on the show. The two sisters duetted on the show, but Kylie found a bigger, juicier role on a new soap opera called Neighbours. The show had struggled at first, but with the addition of Kylie and an actor named Jason Donovan, Neighbours quickly turned into must-see TV. Kylie and Jason starred as Charlene Mitchell and Scott Robinson, a Romeo and Juliet type romance that turned them into a tabloid-grabbing super couple in the world of Australian television. When the couple's wedding episode aired in the UK, where the show was just as popular, it drew an estimated audience of more than 20 million viewers. If my math's correct, that worked out to be one of every 3 households in the UK. Kylie and Jason were also dating in real life, which definitely helped both the soap and the newspapers. Within a year of starring on the show, Kylie had become an international TV star. She became the first person ever to win 4 Logie Awards in a single year. Logie Awards being the Australian Emmys. Good day, mate. Just as she was becoming a star on TV, Kylie was beginning a career in music too. During an Aussie Rules football charity event, Kylie performed an impromptu cover of the 1962 hit Locomotion, along with Cher and Sonny Bono's I Got You Babe, with Neighbours castmate John Waters. Kylie admitted to being really nervous at the time, but Locomotion was a song she knew well because she owned a Carole King songbook. The performance earned Kylie an invitation to record a demo of the song, which was sent off to Mushroom Records, who immediately signed her based on her popularity from Neighbours. Kylie's version of the song was re-recorded and released soon after Charlene and Scott's wedding on Neighbours in July 1987. The song was an immediate smash hit in Australia, becoming the country's biggest selling single of the decade. A re-recorded version would see a release in the UK, US, and Canada 1 year later and proved to be an international hit for the actress turned singer, even appearing in the movie Arthur 2 on the Rocks, which proved to be one of the box office biggest flops of 1988. But hey, you can't win them all. Kylie would tell Entertainment Tonight in Australia, "It was really difficult at the start when I released Locomotion because it could have been great for my career. It could have been detrimental. It's only now the Australians are starting to believe that I can sing. Maybe I do have talent and that it's not all manufactured. It's taken a long time. I know people have to prove themselves, but I'm not out there to prove it for other people. I'm doing it because I want to prove it to myself and because I enjoy it." The song's success led Kylie to fly over to London, England to meet with songwriting and production team Mike Stock, Matt Aitken and Pete Waterman, a trio nicknamed The Hit Factory. Kylie had been there for 10 days waiting before the producers met with her, but they finally threw together a new song to present to her. That song became I Should Be So Lucky, a soon-to-be hit for Kylie that was written in only 40 minutes, with Kylie recording it in under an hour. She wasn't very happy about the experience, though, after she was forced to sing the lyrics as they were fed to her without hearing the music. Even producer Mike Stock admitted that they had treated her shabbily. Kylie headed back to Australia afterwards, and the Hit Factory did nothing with the song. They weren't convinced she was anything more than a TV star. They sat on the track and didn't even release it until Mushroom Records in Australia came calling, demanding they finish it. Still, Kylie would sign a deal with PWL Records in the UK, and I Should Be So Lucky became her second single to reach number 1 in the UK. While filming her final episodes of Neighbours, Kylie was also recording her debut album. Time was tight for both projects, and she was stretched thin, often resulting in emotional breakdowns. Whenever she had free time, she would record new music for a few hours here and there, often learning the song on the spot. Kylie was able to take a break from Neighbours to finish the album in London. Producers wanted the album to consist of only singles-worthy tracks, like a greatest hits type collection of bubblegum, high-energy dance pop music. But Kylie wanted to lean more R&B. Her wish was denied, and Kylie quickly learned just how little input she had in her music. Here she is talking to Much Music's Suk Yin Lee about her time working with PWL.
PWL called themselves the Hit Factory, which was absolutely perfect. That's what they did. They made hits and they churned them out like a factory. And they could and they did pluck anyone from the street and you could have a top 5 hit. And they were well aware of that. And I think I slipped into that kind of system very well from having worked on a soap, where it's the same thing. You turn up, you get your script, you learn your lines, you can't mess anyone around, there's just no time for it. Red light is on and you do it. So it was the same when I went to PWL. I had no say in anything initially. Turn up, da-da-da-da-da-da, got it? Okay, in you go. And I was very good at memorizing something, mimicking it and doing it. Yes. And as the years passed by, I wanted naturally to have more involvement and to learn and express myself in different ways. So it's a very different story today. I'm a lot more in control of what I do, but I think control's a word that doesn't suit me very well. I prefer to work with people. I love working with people. I'm not the type that can go away and strum on a guitar and be happy. I need that stimulation. And
Kylie Minogue's debut album, Kylie, was released on July 4th, 1988. It was an immediate hit in the UK, topping the charts for 6 weeks and becoming one of the decade's biggest selling albums. Ironically enough, it would only reach number 2 in her native Australia. PWL attempted to market Kylie and her music to children and young teens in a bid to make her relatable and a role model. The album was picked up by Geffen for release in the US, but it failed to chart higher than number 53. Following her departure from Neighbours, she gave in to public pressure and collaborated with boyfriend Jason Donovan, who was also launching a music career with PWL. They recorded a duet called Especially For You, which was yet another number 1 hit in the UK. The song would later appear on episodes of Neighbours, including the series finale in 2022 that saw both Kylie and Jason return to reprise their roles. But the song also signaled the end of their romance. Kylie and her team didn't wait long to capitalize on the success of her debut with another album, releasing a follow-up, Enjoy Yourself, just over 1 year later. Despite selling loads in the UK and scoring a hit with the single Hand on Your Heart, Kylie's second album flopped hard in the US and her label Geffen dropped her. Critics panned the album, claiming it was too similar to her first album. Her failure to find any kind of audience in the American market would loom over her career for years to come, but Kylie kept her focus on her work, embarking on a tour of the continents that cared about her music, and starred in her first feature film, The Delinquents. It was around this time that Kylie began dating Michael Hutchence, frontman of Aussie rockers In Excess. Kylie wasn't too happy with the direction in which her music career was headed. She was tired of just singing whatever songs her producers Stock Aitken and Waterman were handing her. She wanted some control. So for her third album, she demanded they allow her to co-write some of her own songs, 4 in total. Kylie also wanted to ditch the kiddie pop sound for something more mature and sexy. Her third album in 3 years, Rhythm of Love, leaned more towards R&B, disco, hip-hop, and house music, picking up on more contemporary sounds. Kylie matured her look, ditching the teeny bop girly style she was forced to adopt for the image of a modern woman, which many people felt was the influence of her relationship with Michael Hutchence. Naturally, this gamble with Rhythm of Love was more of a personal success than it was a commercial success. While the critics applauded Kylie's growth, none of the album and its singles had the same chart impact as her first 2 albums. Still, the album allowed Kylie to make some important changes, especially with the video for her song Better the Devil You Know. She would tell the Sydney Morning Herald, "That was the moment. I wasn't in charge, but I had a voice. I'd bought some clothes on King's Road in London for the video. I saw a new way to express my point of view creatively." Unfortunately for Kylie, her whirlwind romance with Hutchence ended after 16 months with a phone call, just before the album's release. But Kylie was wasting no time with her music, and she kept it going. For the 4th album, Let's Get To It, she sought to secure even more creative freedom. The album would prove to be her final recording work with Stock Aitken and Waterman, who were now without Matt Aitken, who left the team. This allowed Kylie to be a lot more involved in the songwriting and production of her music, finding inspiration from the London club scene. She even took on the alias of Angel K to secretly release some dance tracks on white label promo 12 inches for clubs to play. She and Pete Waterman also tried sampling other songs to help inspire them. The song I Guess I Like It Like That features 2 Unlimited's mega hit Get Ready For This, which you will hear at some point during virtually any hockey game. I think it might be a law. Despite upping the sexuality and genre hopping, Let's Get To It would become Kylie's worst performing album to date. During an interview with Q Magazine in 1992, she would admit, "I was very much a puppet in the beginning. I was blinkered by my record company. I was unable to look left or right. But that feeling was mutual." PWL felt that Kylie's career was, quote, not moving in a direction that was going to be successful, so the 2 parties agreed to not renew their contract. In 1992, Kylie fulfilled her contract with PWL Records by releasing a greatest hits record. Even though her last 2 albums hadn't sold well, this collection saw her return to the top of the UK chart. While she was offered a deal by a few major labels, she decided to change directions and sign a deal with an indie label called Deconstruction that was rooted more in the club scene and would give her more credibility as an artist. About the signing, the label's founder Pete Hadfield said, "Kylie is regarded as a trashy disco singer. We regard her as a potential radical dance diva." Any radical dance diva has a home at Deconstruction. Kylie entered the studio ready to experiment. She would record an album's worth of songs, but she ditched all of them but one. There were talks between her and Prince, who wrote and recorded a song for her, as well as Pet Shop Boys, Primal Scream, and Lenny Kravitz, but the timing was off for all of those. Luckily, she found a kinship with production duo Brothers in Rhythm, who helped her unlock her potential. The first song they produced would be a breakthrough called Confide in Me, a sprawling mix of trip-hop, dance, and pop that clocked in at nearly 6 minutes, but only took about an hour to record. It was a pretty drastic change from the more plastic pop she'd been making just a few years prior. Quite simply, the song was a total reinvention for Kylie, helping usher in the next phase of her career and becoming a long-standing fan favourite. Confide in Me would take Kylie back to the top of the charts, reaching number 1 in Australia and number 2 in the UK. More songs would follow with the help of producers Farley and Heller and the M People, and Kylie had her album, a sexual, sensual collection of adult dance pop that introduced a whole new side to both her music and the woman herself. Here's Kylie explaining her musical pivot to Andy Peters of BBC's The Ozone.
It's different to anything you've ever heard before. It's not like I'm doing something too outrageous, but at least it's very different for what people would be used to from me.
Are you scared?
I'm really interested to know what people think of it. I mean, I don't even like describing it because I'd rather just let people listen to it and make of it what they will. We knew we could either follow along the same line that I'd been traveling and do a pop album, which would be the safe route to take. Or we could do something a little different and just try everything, see what comes up.
Released on September 19th, 1994, her fifth album, titled Kylie Minogue, fared better than the previous couple of albums, both commercially and critically, but it wasn't a smash hit of any kind. Instead, Kylie and her label looked at the album more as a bold artistic statement. Just months later, Kylie returned to the big screen for Stephen E. D'Souza's film adaptation of the popular arcade game Street Fighter. Also starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Kylie played Cammy, an MI6 operative who suffers from amnesia. The director admitted he cast Kylie simply because he saw her photo in a magazine and he was being pressured to hire an Australian actress by the Actors Guild. Although the film was a box office success, it was universally panned by critics. In fact, Richard Harrington of the Washington Post went out of his way to call Kylie the worst actress in the English-speaking world. Yikes. Van Damme would later admit to The Guardian that he and Kylie had an affair while they were making the film, saying, "Yes, it happened. I was in Thailand, we had an affair. Sweet kiss, beautiful lovemaking. It would be abnormal not to have had an affair. She's so beautiful and she was there in front of me every day with a beautiful smile. Simpatico, so charming. She was acting like a big star. I knew Thailand very well, so I showed her my Thailand. She's a great lady." Double yikes. Kylie would follow up Street Fighter with the comedy Biodome, starring Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin. Kylie plays a scientist named Dr. Petra von Kant, and let me tell you, The Guardian wasn't wrong when they called the film Kylie's worst career move. Triple yikes. While her film career was, what's the opposite of taken off, Kylie received an invitation to collaborate on a song with an unlikely party. Alternative rock and goth icon Nick Cave asked her to sing a duet with him on a new song he had written. In an interview with Australian journalist Molly Meldrum, Cave explains, "Where the Wild Roses Grow was written very much with Kylie in mind. I'd wanted to write a song for Kylie for many years. I had a quiet obsession with her for about 6 years. I wrote several songs for her, none of which I felt was appropriate to give her. It was only when I wrote this song, which is a dialogue between a killer and his victim, that I thought I'd finally written the right song for Kylie to sing. I sent the song to her and she replied the next day. Here's Kylie telling her side of things to Midday with Kerry Ann Kennerly."
I had heard for a few years prior to that from different mutual friends that he was interested in working with me and didn't really make any moves to follow that up. I thought, oh, he'll contact me, whatever, you know. I was very interested, but I didn't contact him. And then eventually we met, and the first day I met him was the day I did my vocals, so it was one of the best, possibly the best thing I've ever done.
Influenced by John Everett Malay's painting of Ophelia, the music video for the song finds Kylie portraying the deceased victim of Cave's killer. Kylie spent an entire day immersed in water with a Burmese python slithering across her. In 1995, Where the Wild Roses Grow shocked fans of both artists, but it turned out to be a chart success, becoming the biggest hit of Nick Cave's career. Kylie took the darker nature of the song and carried it over into her next album. She would also work with Welsh rock heroes Manic Street Preachers, which helped her establish the nickname Indie Kylie, which signified a big artistic transition. Titled Impossible Princess, Kylie's sixth album was hardly even pop music, playing with genres like electronica, trip-hop and rock. The album was heavily influenced by her romance with French photographer Stéphane Sednaoui, best known for directing the videos for Smashing Pumpkins' Today and U2's Mysterious Ways. Both Sednaoui and Nick Cave helped encourage Kylie to become the primary songwriter for her music. Impossible Princess was her most radical departure yet. Here's Kylie in a promo video explaining how different making this album was from others.
I wasn't aiming for anything in particular other than getting more experience, trying songwriting myself. Pretty much for the first time. I've done a little bit before, but this was, it was kind of like a diary. I was literally writing anything I felt on any given day, and then it would become a song. And just trying to find an honesty with that, and not have to be what I've been before or what people would perceive me as being, or even what I knew. I've found that I've done a lot on this album that is surprising to myself even. I mean, I hear things back and think, God, I never thought that I would sound like that or that I would be capable of writing that song. It's been a big lesson.
Unfortunately for Kylie, there would be more lessons to learn. Just before the album's scheduled release, Princess Diana was killed in a car accident, which forced the label to shelve the album for months and briefly rename it Kylie Minogue, the third album of hers to receive an eponymous title. The first single, Some Kind of Bliss, a collaboration with Manic Street Preachers, was a confusing choice that misled fans into thinking Kylie had made an indie guitar album. When it finally released in March 1998, critics were divided on Impossible Princess, with NME even labeling Kylie a total fraud for trying her hand at Britpop, and as a result, abandoning her sound. The record-buying public weren't sure what to make of indie Kylie either, and the album sold a fraction of what her previous albums did. As a matter of course, Deconstruction dropped Kylie from the label over the disappointing sales. A few years later, Kylie would tell Rolling Stone that she felt the label failed to support her both while making the album and with its release. She said, "On some songs, lyrically, it's obvious to me now that I'm saying, I'm not waving, I am in fact drowning. Hello? Is there anybody there?" At the time, I felt like there was no one to help me. All of a sudden, Kylie Minogue was unsure what to do next. Kylie spent the next few years out of the limelight, making the odd live appearance and focusing more on her acting. Making new music didn't seem like it was on the horizon. But after singing on a track by Pet Shop Boys, their label Parlophone took an interest. Miles Leonard, who worked A&R for Parlophone and had signed Coldplay and Gorillaz, envisioned a way in which Kylie could make a comeback. So he signed her to Parlophone when no one else was calling. Leonard would tell Hit Quarters, "I believe that she was still very strong vocally and still definitely a star. There was something there that hadn't been achieved by her last label, and I didn't think it really had anything to do with her. It had to do with the A&R process and the awareness of the talent she actually had. Talent which hadn't been tapped into, I think. I believed in her as an artist, and I knew that with the right project, the right songwriters, the right producers, the right team, she would still have a fan base out there." Upon meeting with Parlophone, Kylie was determined to go back to her roots and embrace her role as a pop queen. But in doing so, she wanted to revisit her earliest memories of listening to music. Primarily, her parents' disco collection. Yes, Kylie was going disco. She told prospective producers that she had 3 keywords in mind for the album: poolside, disco, and cocktails. Here she is telling Much Music's Suk-Yin Lee about why disco mattered to her.
I knew the album would be pop, disco. I didn't realise it would be quite this disco influenced. But now that I've finished the project and I've got a little distance to judge it, I think I was born into disco.
You were
You know, when I was 8, 9, I was obsessed by Grease, by Saturday Night Fever, by Donna. I was strutting around singing Donna Summer Bad Girls. I didn't know what I was singing, but...
Throughout 1999 and 2000, Kylie would work with a number of songwriters and producers on the album, but none more famous than Robbie Williams, who at the time was Britain's biggest pop star and someone who knew a thing or two about the struggle of breaking in America. Robbie and his songwriting partner Guy Chambers co-wrote 3 songs for Kylie, including a duet called Kids, which would end up being a big hit for both artists. Although it didn't come without some controversy. One line where Robbie sang, "Press be asking do I care for sodomy, I don't know, yeah, probably," was removed from the radio edit because, well, he sings about sodomy. The album's first single, however, would be Spinning Around, a sparkling and stylish bit of pop with a disco beat to it. The song was a massive success, going #1 in Australia and the UK, her first chart topper in a decade. The album Light Years would follow in September 2000 and become her best-selling album in 11 years, confirming Kylie's comeback was for real. Once again, Kylie was in demand, receiving an invitation to perform at both the closing ceremony of the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney and the opening ceremony of the Paralympics. She was also asked by director Baz Luhrmann to play the Green Fairy in his 2001 film Moulin Rouge. The brief role earned her a nomination for Best Cameo at the 2002 MTV Movie Awards. Kylie would tell Much Music that this comeback would help her appreciate all of the changes, the ups and downs, and hits and misses she experienced in her career.
Well, firstly, there's an element of magic and mystery, and I don't want to know quite how it's happened because it's just a beautiful thing and it's happened very naturally. But I guess the fact that people have seen me grow up right in front of them, I feel like we've grown up together, and they've seen me since 17 years old, and I'm now 32, so they've seen me do well, they've seen me make mistakes and terrible embarrassments, and I guess I've just tried to move with the times, and change is something that comes very naturally to me, and I can't imagine not having all those changes, but I think it's helped me career-wise.
It didn't take long for Kylie to return to the studio, though. She'd resurrected her career and once again risen to the top of the pop world where she wanted to stay. So for her next record, Kylie didn't change much. She was still focused on a disco and Europop influence for her music, but decided to try out some new songwriters. Cathy Dennis was a name she was familiar with. Dennis had been a pop singer herself, one who actually knew a thing about breaking the US market with a few top 10 hits in the late 80s and early 90s. But more recently, she had found success writing songs for TV popsters S Club 7 and eventually would give Toxic to Britney Spears, which you might remember from a previous episode of Encore. TV producer Simon Fuller, the man behind American Idol, was the one to team up Dennis with the musician Rob Davis to work on some new music for no artists in particular. They spent 2 days together at Dennis's home, and at one point, using what Dennis called the most primitive setup you could imagine, Davis was playing around with the program Cubase when he came up with a hypnotic drum loop. Taking inspiration from techno pioneers Kraftwerk and 80s synth-pop act Bronski Beat, David added a melody with his acoustic guitar, and then Dennis began singing the lyric, "I just can't get you out of my head." And from there, Davis used a Korg Triton key synth workstation for everything else, the hi-hats, bass drum, snare, and even a shaker. Here's Cathy Dennis telling BBC Radio 2 how they put the song together.
We were writing a dance song, we knew that, and so there are a few constraints within that, as in, the pace of it and the feel of it, but I did feel like we were trying to do something different with dance music. When you're writing music, there are triggers, and they're not obvious triggers. They can re-censor a memory, and somehow the Kraftwerk thing kind of came into my head, and that was a line on the keyboard that goes da-na-na-num, ba-na-na-num. So the sound of it and the line were definitely inspired by my love of Kraftwerk.
Once they nailed the chorus, they came up with the bridge, but they still needed to add some kind of hook. That's when Dennis came up with la la la. La 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 la. But how and where she came up with it, well, I'll let her tell you.
I remember taking a couple of wee breaks, restroom breaks, and I normally find during the restroom breaks that they're a big part of the creative process because I've totally detached at that point. But I remember going to the restroom, and that was where I came back and started doing the la la. So that was from another wee break.
You heard that right, folks. That irresistible hook in Can't Get You Out of My Head was brought to you by Cathy Dennis's pee breaks. In the end, it only took Dennis and Davis about 3 hours to finish the song. They then gave it to Simon Fuller, but he didn't think it was right for S Club 7, so they offered it to Sophie Ellis-Bextor, who was still months away from recording her hit Murder on the Dance Floor. She also passed on it. Thankfully, they shopped the song to Kylie's team, who felt it was a perfect fit for her. Kylie fell in love with the song before she even heard the whole thing. Here she is describing the moment to the Associated Press.
And my A&R guys called and said, we've got a song, you've got to listen to it. We're pretty pleased with themselves. So I go into the office, and sure enough, they play the track, and before it had even finished, halfway through, I'm having a mild apoplexy going, diaries, quick, when can I record this song? Completely fell in love with it, couldn't believe how perfect it was. Not only as a song, but for me to launch into this next album, it has the magic ingredient. And if we knew what that was, we'd be able to do it all the time.
Cathy Dennis believes that Faith stepped in and brought the song to Kylie. She would tell M Magazine, even though Kylie wasn't the first artist to be offered the song, I don't believe it was meant to go to anyone other than Kylie, and I don't believe anyone else would have done the incredible job she did with it. Kylie had fallen in love with the demo of the song after just 20 seconds, so she rushed to record it with Dennis and Davis in a garage of all places. Apparently, Kylie even brought smoked salmon for everybody. Now, that is gratitude. Can't Get You Out of My Head was released on September 10th, 2001, and unlike any other Kylie Minogue track before it, the song became an instant smash worldwide. The song topped the charts in almost every country in the world, including the UK, Australia, and Canada. It even went to number 1 on Billboard's Dance Club charts, which was a rare win for Kylie in the US and her first real hit since The Locomotion in 1987. Here she is talking about that with the Associated Press while visiting the US to do promo.
Most people think I fell off the face of the earth after 1987, and I suppose they're intrigued to know what did you do, and I say, well, I haven't stopped working. I'm on my 8th album. I just haven't been working here. So.
To answer the Billboard headline at the time, can Kylie break in the US? The answer was yes. But in that article, Kylie would tell Billboard that such a goal wasn't on her list of priorities. She said, "It's like when you fancy somebody at school. The minute you stop fancying that person is when the person starts taking a fancy to you. That's how I feel about the US. I don't know if I have the drive and enthusiasm to break in America. Quite honestly, I don't feel the need to have to tell these people how to say my name or discuss the locomotion. Up until now, I've resigned myself to the fact that America wouldn't be like the rest of the world for me. I'm anonymous there, which, I must confess, I kind of like." But Kylie's success in North America felt like it was timed to a T, as she was arriving just as other UK-based acts like Craig David, Dido, and David Gray were making it big. And yes, at this time, Kylie was as much British as she was Australian. This type of global success was a long time coming, whether she welcomed it or not. But the thing about Can't Get You Out of My Head was that it didn't just blow up and disappear. It lingered for a long time. Part of that had to do with its hypnotic, futuristic video, which was directed by Dawn Shadforth, who had worked with Kylie before on Spinning Around, as well as Basement Jaxx and Jamiroquai. The video features some truly iconic outfits. Check out the white hooded jumpsuits. I'm wearing one now. Extreme Kylie close-ups and jaw-dropping choreography by Michael Rooney, who would win an MTV Video Music Award for Best Choreography. Kylie would reveal to TV presenter Graham Norton that Rooney's unique vision was originally choreographed in a small hotel room, hence the inside-a-box look of the set. As for that dress,
I don't know when I can wear that dress again. Everyone says, how does it stay like that? I say, it's all done with mirrors. It looks so good in the video. It's kind of a star in its own right, that outfit.
the music video was such a big deal that it inspired British music journalist Paul Morley to write a book, Words and Music, The History of Pop in the Shape of a City. Kylie would turn heads at the 2002 Brit Awards when she performed a mashup of Can't Get You Out of My Head and New Order's Blue Monday, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend checking it out. It's one of the greatest award show performances ever and one very cool mashup. Her 8th studio album, Fever, followed in October 2001, and like its title suggests, people definitely caught it. Even the critics found something to love. Kylie admitted she was going for more of a statement with this album, which required her and her producers to be more progressive, and it paid off. Once again focusing on a dance-heavy brand of pop music, Fever would become Kylie's biggest-selling album ever, shifting more than 6 million copies worldwide, and spawning more hit singles that followed, including Come Into My World, which would win Kylie her first ever Grammy for Best Dance Recording in 2004. Although her fans were waiting for it, Fever's success surprised the world and even Kylie.
I've achieved actually more than I thought I would with the tour, with this album, with everything around the album, all of the images. Things really seem to be held together very firmly at the moment, and hey, maybe the planets are in line, I don't know, but I like being me right now.
Naturally, a song called Can't Get You Out of My Head has stuck around and remained relevant for the past 20 plus years. Even when Kylie scored another massive hit in 2023 with Padam Padam, Can't Get You Out of My Head came back into the conversation about just how underrated and yet massive her appeal is. In 2021, The Independent published a headline calling her thrilling chart banger, the best pop song of the 21st century. Rolling Stone listed it as number 20 in its list of the 200 greatest dance songs of all time, adding that it was pop perfection engineered in a lab in the best possible way. When asked in 2012 by Pop Justice which of her songs she was to put into a pop culture time capsule, Kylie naturally picked her hit. She said, "You'd probably have to put Can't Get You Out of My Head in there, wouldn't you?" It really defines that time, and I think it's more of its time than, for example, my 1987 Locomotion. To this day, the song keeps reappearing when you least expect it. In 2022, Peggy Gou, one of the hottest producers in the electronic and dance music scene, offered up her own Midnight remix, which has racked up 40 million streams on Spotify. Kylie's also performed the song during her appearance at the 2024 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And of course, science of all things can back up why Can't Get You Out of My Head remains such a ubiquitous part of our lives, because in a 2017 study by researchers at Goldsmiths, University of London, it was named one of the songs most frequently causing involuntary musical imagery, which is described as the experience whereby a short section of music comes into the mind spontaneously without effort and then repeats without conscious control. The study found that Kylie's song was one of the songs people most often get stuck in their brains. In fact, it ranked number 2, only behind Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. Come on, you can't tell me that's not better than a Grammy or a Brit Award. Speaking of earworms, I'm definitely a victim this week. Any thoughts on how I can't get you out of my head? I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of Kylie Minogue's Can't Get You Out of My Head on Encore, with new episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.